Like I remember strategically planning a bathroom trip during the Shango entrance because we had ringside seats and I did not want to be near any of that black magic, man.
May 1992, fresh off of their run ins during main event of WrestleMania 8, the returning Ultimate Warrior is booked in a bizarre multi week storyline that unfolded on WWF Superstars.
Yeah, this storyline is a very special one to me. And this is one of those storylines where anybody that was watching WWF in 1992 would instantly be able to recall it scene by scene. So kick us off, brother.
I absolutely will get us started here with the insanity of the Papa Shango Ultimate Warrior storyline. It starts on May 2nd, 1992 on WWF Superstars, which is all of these are on Superstars. So let us know in the comments what your favorite moment of Superstars was. We'd love to hear from you. So we cut to the ring and our Papa Shango versus Red Tyler match is starting.
Red Tyler, possibly the bully from A Christmas Story, is now all juiced up and just seeking revenge on Ralphie 10 years later for putting the boots to him whenever he went psycho. That was what I thought right away.
The first thing that popped into my head is that he is a Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Lex Luger love child. That's the only thing I could think about.
But and he had incredible tights on. I could tell you that much.
Right. That's exactly. I got her the gear from Luger. The look is totally Hacksaw.
So from behind the big WWF logo, from parts unknown, weighing 330 pounds, it's Papa Shango. And dude, there's a look from a little kid that is terrified. And I can completely empathize with him. I'll get to that later on. So he comes out, and Henning is so good on commentary. He doesn't like voodoo. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He says he's got bones around his neck, a skull, gonna put a curse on somebody. And he's really serious. And the crowd's holding their nose because the skull is smoking. I thought that like it sort of was the inspiration for the smoking skull pile animatronic from Spirit Halloween. I loved all of it though.
Yeah. The first thing that I thought when I saw it, because I'm seeing this all for the first time. I've never seen this. This happened before I was born, literally a couple months before I was born. And the first thing I thought about was the villain from the Bond movies. Whenever he was on the front of that train or the back of
Mhm.
the train, I can't remember which one it was. That's exactly who I thought of.
I had the heel from Princess and the Frog. Rewatching it back.
It's so So Shango has the inset promo where he's like, curse the living, raise the dead. When the river is flowing, the river runs red. And dude, like that was so good.
Yes.
He literally had me hook, line, and sinker from an inset promo.
He enunciated all the right parts. His evil, villainous voodoo laugh was right on point. It was excellent. So Red Tyler is getting a big bad voodoo beat down, man. And he's doing this all in the greatest America gear you've ever seen. We just said that. He gets a comeback for a shake, dude, just for a second. And then the beating continues.
And there's a big slam, a leg drop, and then the talks in tongues to the skull. He picks up Red, gives the shoulder breaker to the spine, and the table is literally set.
Yeah. Yeah. Hat goes back on. A woman in the crowd is disgusted. There's a shocked little boy. And then that heel from the Princess and the Frog, man, he's primed for the big time. I love it.
I love the way that they shot the crowd all the time. Like they were getting people's legit reactions and people were just legit scared. You could tell in their faces.
So I don't know this as fact, but this is me looking way back.
Mm-hmm.
The dirty little secret here is if you notice that like three of these shows are from Syracuse, and then the next ones are all from the Rupp Arena. So
Right.
what they're doing is they're taping all the TVs
Uh-huh.
and they have cameras everywhere. And so they're able to then find the people giving the look at the time. And John, this is how a 7-year-old mongoose just thought that these guys were the biggest stars in the world because I was feeling how the people were feeling that they were showing, and it was awesome.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense because I remember watching like three episodes in a row, and when I got to the third one, I was like, "Are they still in the same arena?" Like it literally finally clicked to me. We've been in the same arena the entire time.
Yep. Yep. And the best part is that Vince and Kurt just filmed different intros.
In our main event, Skinner walks out to the ring, just spitting shaw everywhere. Got the biggest lip of Lancaster tucked into that cheek. And,
Yep. The Terry Funk inspo.
oh yeah, from last week.
Yeah. We can't get away from snuff spitters.
We can't. The Warriors music hits. The crowd, they were going insane for Warrior. He has Trunks with a flexing body on the front, and he beats out Red Tyler for the best Trunks of the night for sure. Like the airbrush on these things were, mwah.
It's one thing when you're Rick Rude and you have your opponent on your trunks or whatever. When you have yourself on your own little trunks, you're the greatest of all time.
Have to be, have to be. So Skinner starts by spitting Chaw in Warrior's face, and then he eats two body slams. Then Warrior bashes Skinner's head into the turnbuckle. Skinner does the spit cell with his Chaw going into the third row. Just, just foul.
I
Absolute
I
foul.
don't know where it landed. I don't want to know where it landed, and I hope somebody put it in their pocket and has it on display to this day. I got Steve Kearn's nab. So Warrior's posing, and there's a huge chaw spit stain on his neck
God.
as he's flexing and getting the power of the Warriors. I'm dying. Skinner makes his way back in. He eats a shoulder tackle and a big splash. Then he eats the pin. The Warrior rubs Skinner's beard, I guess for luck. I don't know why. And then he just tosses him out. And dude, he's posing and running around like a maniac.
So we go to the next episode of Superstars the very next week, and it's the Mother's Day edition of Superstars. So we go from a crush squash match over Kato to a burning picture of the Ultimate Warrior. And we are in Papa Shango's voodoo den.
Yeah, that was a heck of a cutaway. Yeah, right from Kona Crush into the Burning Warrior and Shango. We see the den, and then we hear, "Curse the living, raise the dead, the warrior's nightmare, the warrior's dread. Ha 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 ha! The living will fall, the dead will rise." He throws an effigy into the fire, symbolizing, Warrior, you're SOL, brother. Vince announces the curse. So now it's official, right? And Henning's just grateful that Shango's placed the curse on the Warrior. That's it. That he was happy that if he's going to do it on somebody, let it be the Ultimate Warrior.
Yes, I thought that was hilarious. Like Hennig was so good through here. He was perfect. And
Yes.
that that like after he that like demonic laugh that he had at the end was so good. I
Yeah.
believed it for a second. I looked
Well,
with 32-year-old eyes and I was like, dude, I believe what I'm watching right now.
well, be seven and not know anything. And this guy has skulls all over the place that smell,
Right.
apparently. And just hangs out in the den because I just thought that they were filming their backyards or whatever. I didn't know that we had stages. And yes, he's playing this character to a T. It's awesome.
So next week on Superstars, it's Ultimate Warrior versus Knobs or Sags. We don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, yep. So Jerry Sags gets on the microphone first for the promo leading us into the next week. He
Mhm.
goes, "Heads we win, tails we win. Anyway, we win. Warriors going to Nastyville, and you're never coming back." Thought that was awesome until Brian Knobs got out there. And dude, he screamed with uncontrolled rage into the camera about the Warrior having the shortest return ever and that he's going to get nasty size daddy o. And I was like, well, Warriors losing to Knobs.
Yep. So we cut to the Warrior, and he is walking unaffected by this voodoo that Shango has put on him. And next week, Nasty Boys, the curse shall be put on you.
That was awesome. And that leads us to the May 16th episode of Superstars. Just before the match, Nails' disembodied voice comes over the PA, and he's coming for Boss Man. And we are now living in a universe where this storyline's going on. Nails is coming for the Boss Man, and Rick Martel just shot arrogance into Tatanka's eyes. They're just running on all cylinders right here, man.
There is
This is
so
so
much,
good.
there's so much going on here in 92. It's amazing.
And not to mention that we have Flair and Macho Man
Yes.
pending.
So it is Warrior versus a nasty boy. The fan that ripped his jacket off and did the full like, and he had the WWF tattoo right here. Dude, I hope he still has it and he treats it exactly the same. I hope he's never done anything ever different in his life. I hope every time somebody sees him, he just goes, boom.
Boom. I'd high five him. I'd take a picture with him in Mania.
So Warrior comes out and the crowd literally is melting for him. I could not believe how over Warrior was in 92.
So that music is just so all time. The energy is insane. It's infectious through the crowd. He comes out sprinting every time. It only makes it better. He looks like a maniac. So here he sprints to the ring. He clotheslines both nasty boys out. He starts wailing on Knobs, throws him into the barricade, and then Jerry Sags eats a fistful of the apron.
And then the Nasties, they eventually cut him off. They start working the kidneys with punches, and then they rough up Warrior on the outside with their jackets. How awesome is that? They were literally using their jackets to wail on him.
Listen, man, that's a lot of rope to choke somebody with. Those things are 6.5 feet tall. You know what I'm saying? Like those mega leather trench coats, man. Yeah, why not? Why not? Be resourceful. So the Warrior goes into the ring, and his opponent is officially Knobs. We should have known this right from Knobs screaming like a maniac the week before.
Mm.
And they rip off the Ultimate Warrior's wristband, and it is noted by either Vince or Henning on commentary.
Yeah. So that's a really important part to the entire story because Shango makes his way to the ring. He picks up that wristband, talks in tongues, and just stares at it. And then he makes his way to the back.
Yeah, so Sags wants the Warrior to go to Pity City. So this is all going on, and Jerry Sags, he's holding up. He wants him to come in. Warrior reverses it. He gets the crowd pop there. Knobs cuts off Warrior and starts getting maybe the most heat on Warrior from anybody that wasn't Rick Rude or Hogan. Like he's legitimately taking like 60% of this match.
I thought the same thing when I was watching it. Warrior starts his comeback, but Jimmy Hart distracts the ref, and Jerry hits Warrior in the back with the chair when he hits the ropes.
So right after this, Sags bails for the slick getaway, and we get a 2 count. So cover, Knobs is all cocky, 2 count, Warrior kicks out, starts to fire up. The crowd explodes. Warrior's impervious to the punches. He's dancing his feet. He hits 3 straight clotheslines. He's pumping his fists. We get a running tackle, a jumping splash, and Warrior comes out victorious. And folks, that's the end of every Ultimate Warrior match ever.
And they're really getting over the fact that like the curse has not done anything to him yet.
Yeah. He's power of the Warriors, man. So Shango comes back during the celebration, and this time he's with the Smoky Skull, okay?
Huh.
And he starts to gyrate
Yep.
as the Warriors celebrating. And Shango here looks like John Baker did when Cody Rhodes finished the story at WrestleMania 40. Just the mouth agape, can't control my movements. That was John whenever Cody got the 3 count. My kingdom hit. So while all this is happening, there's a dude in the front row, and he's pointing straight at Warrior, and he's just screaming for him to look at Shango. He has such a serious problem that Shango walked out here, Warrior's posing, and he doesn't see it, and this guy is trying to tip him off, and it ain't happening.
And Warrior all of a sudden starts grabbing his stomach and falls off the apron into pain.
Yeah, Shango's just bobbleheading like
Yep.
mad. That's all he's doing here. And my man in the front row, he's laying into him the whole time. He's giving it to him, man.
That's not the best part about it. because McMahon's trying to make sense of why all of a sudden his stomach hurts, and then he's like, he has appendicitis, and
Of course he
I
did.
popped to the moon. That was
Yes.
so good.
It was, and it perfect right away needs to remind him that it's a curse. He goes, "Look at Shango's face. He's in a trance. He's in another world." And the warrior's screaming in pain, and as Shango's looming over him, he's whispering to the spirits. Perfect says, "I don't know much about voodoo, but I know when a curse has been placed, and one's been placed on the Ultimate Warrior." And I was like, "All right, you're probably good there, Kurt." So we cut to a commercial. We come back, and brother, as a kid, this is a scene that I will never, ever forget.
So they go backstage, and Warrior is on a hospital bed, surrounded by agents and the med staff. He starts puking, and I was at first really disgusted. And then I couldn't believe, but I also couldn't believe my eyes. And then I was laughing because it's just the way that it was just shooting out of him, because it did not make any sense. I guess that's what happens when you're put under a spell.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, try getting voodoo curse, dude.
Yeah, guess that's what happens.
And the crazy thing with this is that I, as a young fella, I also had a very sick, like a very sensitive stomach. I was the kid that would puke all the time at school. Like they followed me around with sawdust. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we'd be sitting in the cafeteria and someone would be like, "Oh, hey, turds." And I would just start vomiting all over the cafeteria and
yeah,
cause a chain reaction. I
yeah.
would puke on the bus. I was that kid. Dude, this is in another level for me because not only am I terrified, I probably didn't eat for the rest of the day. And Superstars aired at 10 o'clock on Saturday mornings. So the doc that's working on him, dude, even worse.
Yeah.
They zoom in and they get a close up of his forehead
Yeah.
with just chunky vomit all over it. And the best part is the doc completely no sells it. And he's just being a doctor and he's saving lives. And I love it, man. And then Vince reminds us that this happens to the best of us. People get sick. President Bush vomited all over the place. So we could all get sick from time to time. But the thing is here, be prepared to see this for a solid month because this is what they did. And dang it, it was effective, man.
Yeah. And the best part is that that happens. We just cut to a Beverly Brothers match.
Of course we do. The show must go on. Gene will bring it back next week.
It's
So
so good.
it is. It is, brother. It is. And it's every single one of these major heat angles or whatever they're doing always is just, and here's the repo man.
Yeah.
So Vince closes this show and he's saying the latest physician's report is that the Ultimate Warrior has stopped convulsing and we'll get the update next week.
So we're now at the May 23rd, 1992 episode of Superstars.
So Perfect says, "You mean like that great ringside physician who died last week right after the Warrior puked on him? He has a gut feeling that as time goes by, we'll have a more inside look at the Ultimate Warrior." It's a whole bunch of puns, and I loved it, dude.
It was so good.
Juxtaposed right with Vince honoring the troops, and Kurt goes full gimmick, and why not?
And so we got to Mean Gene. He reminds us that 2 weeks ago, Shango placed a supposed curse on the Warrior. Gene says that Warrior was seemingly unaffected and, in fact, has looked as good as he's ever seen him. And then we get the recap. Gene then warns us that we're about to see something that is not for the faint of heart or for a weak stomach. And then we get the full replay, complete with vomit at all. They just ran it back again.
If you missed it last week, though, you wouldn't have expected to see a wet plate of macaroni and cheese or whatever it was all over the doctor. So that was something.
Yeah.
So I love Gene, though, dude. He goes, "I'm not one to buy into hocus pocus, nor none of the other antics of Papa Shango, but all this stuff, it's making a believer out of Gene, man." So we're going to get a Warrior interview later, but we kick it back to Shango first. And he says, "Ultimate Warrior, Papa Shango now owns your spirit and now owns you."
So Gene is on the interview stage, and Warrior is brought out in just the most glorious chalk line jacket you're ever gonna find.
It was beautiful.
So Warrior's got his hands in his pockets, And Gene asks if he feels that he's threatened by Shango's curse with his voodoo and his black magic.
Yeah. So the Warrior dude in Miami Dolphins paint stands behind his Warriors and he says that any weakness in his physical condition has already been turned into a greater strength. And how can something so this strong fall under the curse of voodoo? So Gene asks if he's in control of his destiny. And then the warrior goes, I have never been in control of my destiny. It is these warriors that stand behind me that are in control of such things. And they believe that the voodoo you possess is a challenge that must be stopped, must be conquered, a challenge we will survive. Excellent.
It was such good delivery. And as Warrior says, the curse is a challenge that he will survive. Black liquid just starts falling from his hair. And I totally get why this scared you, Goose. I totally bought in for a second. I was like, whoa, what was that? Like, they had me on that one. Like, they might not have had me for the puke and everything, but they definitely had me for that. So Warrior looks at the goo, looks at his hand, and he just starts screaming, Warriors! Like, he's going nuts.
Yeah. And he walks away. He's just sweating crude oil or whatever it is and staring into his palm. And we come back from the break, and Perfect says, the evil goo has just stunned me. And then we go right to the bushwhackers licking kids.
Makes no sense.
Right. Exactly, dude. Every single time. I love it, man. I love it. Hey, you got to bring them down and you got to pick them right back up.
You do. So we move to the next week of Superstars. That is the May 30th, 1992 episode of Superstars. Hennig starts the show by just burying the little warriors. And he says, once Papa Shango puts the curse on you, all of the calcium in the world can't stop your bones from turning to dust.
Yeah, eat that, kids. Got milk? Doesn't matter. So Gene gives us another full recap of everything that happened, like from the beginning.
Yep.
We show it all. And this is how these angles, man, they just get pounded into your head. So Gene's spooked and he's standing right there. And he goes, that's from this voodoo sorcerer. Gene, for one, is not looking forward to it. So we cut back to the ring and we get Brian Brigger in the ring. And he doesn't know what kind of rotten magic's awaiting him, man. It's coming. And oh, this poor fella. So Shango comes out. He's talking to the smoking skull pile. And Brigger's shook, just watching him come in. So now it's trance time. Shango starts waving his arms in diamond cutter position, I feel like. And then all of a sudden, sparks start to come out of his fingers and the lights go out. Little nuance there.
Yeah.
And then they come back. Brian Brigger's boots are burning. They're on fire. Vince just, what else do you say? His opponent's feet are on fire. Well, thanks, Vince. And then the black goo's now smeared all over Brigger's face.
This was so good. So we get a fire extinguisher out, and Brigger is just getting gyrated over with black goo all over his head, and his soles are smoldering on his feet. And Shango just laughs into the camera, and Perfect, what's out of there? And he's just saying, I want nothing to do with this guy. Like, dude, that visual of his feet burning was just so good.
It was. And again, it's so good. They're playing to kids at this point in time. And these are the things that when I would go to the shows, my dad would just be embarrassed that I was his kid. But for me, dude, I was fighting evil. Me and you, Dub, man, we're out there fighting the black side. So Sean Mooney then comes right afterwards, and he reminds all the kids that playing with fire or any attempt at WWF moves could be unsafe. Well, thank you, Sean. We appreciate that public service announcement.
So for our last clip, we are here at the June 6th episode of Superstars 1992. We lead off the show with the main storyline being that the boss man was beat down by nails, but we will hear from Papa Shango later in the show.
So Gene is on the interview stand and they replay the curse again. While Shango is just standing there puffing his cheeks and rolling his neck and gyrating and everything. They're just playing everything from the past month. So Gene is shaken when he recounts the evil goo that was trickling down Warrior's face. And those were his words too. That
Yeah.
evil goo, this dark spell was also just cast on another opponent. And so basically, black goo, fire, all this stuff what's going on, Papa Shango is what he asks.
So Shango asks the warrior how it feels to not be in control, and he kind of like grunts and growls, and he tells the warrior that he stepped into Shango's black circle, and then that circle is closing in on him. So they cut back to Gene. Gene is visibly shaken as Shango walks off. Shango lifts his arm, the smoke raises, and Gene has the evil goo running out of his arm of his coat. And Gene is selling it so hard. He's doing the stanky leg while the goo trickles out of his arm. And that's it.
That's it, dude. Poor Gene, just selling everything for oil to run down his hand or whatever in the world was going on. But I'm telling you, brother, this absolutely terrified a young mongoose. Like I remember strategically planning a bathroom trip during the Shango entrance for the main event against Bret Hart at the Cambria County War Memorial in a show in September 1992 because we had ringside seats and I did not want to be near any of that black magic, man. I was terrified. And right before they announced the main event, because we got a card thing for that night, I said, Dad, I gotta go to the bathroom. I gotta go. And I missed Bret Hart's entrance because I didn't want to be out there for Papa Shango's.
So you could have gotten the Bret Hart glasses.
I wasn't ringside. I was aisle side. I was ringside at the aisle. So I wouldn't have got the glasses, but I still could have gotten a high five. Yeah, yeah. It's all right though, man. Because I feel like I was justifiably terrified by this voodoo master here. So then where do we go from here?
I'm glad that you asked because Warrior goes on to face Macho Man at SummerSlam 92, and his contract is renewed, and we enter the steroid scandal that we mentioned last week on the show. So go check that out. That is the Mr. McMahon documentary reaction. And literally, Shango only gets one title opportunity against Bret Hart later that year in 1992, but by the end of 93, gimmick's dead. They never paid it off with a match. They never did anything. That was it.
Well, in today's stat of the day, according to a quick count that I did on Cage Match before we got on here, Warrior defeated Papa Shango 51 times on house shows between April and August.
51 times?
Mm-hmm.
So this was a total house show feud with all of it on TV just to sell tickets, I guess.
The business model was completely reversed. This is literally an example of watch the TV to buy tickets to the show. That's absolutely what it was.
Holy cow. My word.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I'm off by like one or two. It is about 50 times the Warrior beat Shango throughout the summer, up, down, left, and right, all summer long in singles matches.
Man, so what do you rate this? Because this is like your wheelhouse. You were that scared of Shango back in the day.
It is. And I'll tell you what, man, with the rewatch, the only reason that I can't go 2 thumbs up is because I saw 2 thumbs up when we watched the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
And so I will give it a solid 1.5. And the biggest reason is that we didn't get Warrior Shango at SummerSlam or something like that. You know, like they apparently obviously wrestle that much on the house shows. Things must not have been clicking, or it was simply a house show feud. So 1.5 for me, but dang, man, a solid 1.5. I love this.
I'm going to give it a solid 1 because there's no finish. There's no end. It just was, here's a really kind of really cool storyline for the time, and then there's just no resolution. It just faded into dust. It's one of the greatest stories that they ever told in a matter of this only happens over 5 episodes of Superstars. And like literally, if you would combine them all together, you could probably watch this whole thing in like 25, 30 minutes. And it's so good. It's so compelling. There's no payoff.
Yeah. Yeah. And the 25, 30 minutes is legit because the actual runtime is probably, I'm thinking I probably watched close to an hour, but about 15 minutes of it was just them showing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense.
You should go check it out.
Oh,
And
it's great stuff. It's
oh,
great stuff.
it is really good. It's a really fun watch. In 2024, as you have to just peel back the kayfabe curtain and you just gotta go into it with open arms and just allow yourself to suspend your disbelief in wrestling. You just got to get into it. You got to enter the world.
And seeing those crowd shots really helps you to do that.
Let us know in the comments what you thought about this show and keep checking us out here on Called in the Ring. We'll be back next week with another Ultimate Warrior storyline. It's going to be Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, Halloween Havoc, 1998. I'm Johnny Bake Show.
I'm Teddy Mongoose.
And we just called it in the ring.